Good evening. Welcome to July 23rd, 2018 Board of Trustees meeting. Before tonight's meeting commences, I'd like to ask everybody to stand for a moment of silence, remembering all the brave men and women who have served this great nation of ours, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First up, roll call attendance.
Bartlett. Here. Birch. Here. Camilleri. Here. Fresca.
Here.
Joliet. Here. Thomas.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda, adding 7.2, approval of a proposed approval of a first an amendment to the Waterford Independent Sanitary Sewage Service Contract. I'll support.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? There are none. Now I'll need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Support. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? There are none. Under announcements, Fire Chief John Lyman and Police Chief Scott Underwood will host an informational town hall meeting regarding the upcoming Public Safety Special Assessment District ballot proposal this Thursday, July 26, 2018, 7 p.m. here in the Town Hall Auditorium. This is an opportunity for the community to learn about the proposal on the August 7th state primary election ballot to establish a special assessment district for police and fire funding. The meeting will also be broadcast live here on Municipal Channel 20. 51st District Court is celebrating its 50th anniversary as Michigan's district court system by holding a 2-week ticket amnesty program between July 30th and August 10th, excluding the weekends. For more information on the program, visit the 51st District Court's website or check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or simply call directly at 248-674-4655. Join the Waterford Area Chamber of Commerce at the Oakland County Farmers Market here in Waterford Township for Oakland on Court, Friday, August 3rd, 2018, 7 to 10 p.m. Oakland on Court is a unique craft beer, wine, and food tasting experience hosted in partnership by the Oakland County Farmers Market, SCAMP, and the Waterford Area Chamber. Enjoy the evening of culture and entertainment by experiencing the best Oakland County has to offer in culinary tastings, fine wines, and local craft beer. Also featuring jazz music provided by Scott Winnell, a silent auction, and local artisans. Tickets are $45 per person and available for purchase at www.waterfordchamber.org or contact the Chamber office for more information at 248-666-8600. The state primary election will be held in the Charter Township of Waterford, County of Oakland on Tuesday, August 7, 2018 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Voters wishing to obtain an absentee ballot may do so by contacting the Township Clerk's office. The clerk or their designee will be available in the clerk's office Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. In addition, the clerk's office will be open the Saturday preceding the election, August 4th, 2018, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The deadline for requesting an absentee ballot, which will be mailed. For sample ballots and full text of proposals or any other information, please contact the Waterford Township Clerk's office at 248-674-6266 or visit them on the website at www.waterfordmri.gov. The White Maintenance Garage at Waterford Fish Hatchery Park project was completed with seasonal parks maintenance staff and community service. The cost of materials was $5,912.60. That's new garage doors and siding and materials, and that building looks phenomenal. It was built back in the 1910s or early 20s, and structurally it's in good shape, but it got to the point where you could paint it 2 years later, it needed to be repainted again, it wouldn't hold paint. So we had this group go out and we did probably what they did there, if it had been contracted out, probably would have been like a $14,000 project. So it really looks great. If you get a chance, that's right there where the Clinton River crosses Hatchery Road, back at Fish Hatchery Park. It's a big white building, you can't mess with it. You can take a look at it, and again, it really, really looks sharp. Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center is starting approximately August 20th. They're doing a census. A census team of workers will begin doing door-to-door in our community to get a count on how many dogs there are in the township. So again, that's in the vicinity of August 20th, excuse me. They're going to be coming by, knocking on doors to find out so they can get in compliance with the state dog law for 1990. It says 1919, I think that was a century ago. It should say 2019 for the 2019, so they make sure they have enough tags to accommodate how many dog owners we have. So they will be coming around door to door. So if you have a dog, a chance to brag about it and get it counted. This is a notice to all voters in precincts 5 and 20. Due to summer constructions at Haviland Elementary School and Mason Middle School, the voting in those locations will not be available in August. So Precinct 5, Mason Middle School, polling location is temporarily moved to the Waterford Rec Center, 5440 Williams Lake Road. That's Mason Middle School to the Waterford Rec Center, 5640 Williams Lake Road. And Precinct 20, Haviland Elementary School polling locations are temporarily moved to S. Hathaway Park, 825 South Williams Lake Road. So that's Haviland Elementary polling locations moved to S. Hathaway Park, 825 South Williams Lake Road. So that's just, the school year starts back up and back at the general election in November. Those places will be open back up again. Just temporary.
Yeah, if I may, we did mail notices to everybody who was registered at those addresses, but in case somebody mistook something I sent them as junk mail, I'm also doing it here at the board meeting so that people are aware that it's a temporary change.
And it is that time of year, people do a lot of stuff election related, and they said when you hope it's not garbage day, because a light of campaign literature is from the mailbox to the garbage can, and if it's garbage day, it goes to the mailbox, garbage can, and you carry the cans back up the road, so things like that happen. Okay, under awards and presentations, we have Plant Moran doing our audit presentation.
Thank you, Gary. We're here today to present the results of the audit for the December 31st, 2017 fiscal year end. We know that that was almost 7 months ago now. But so we did finish our audit. Our audit was dated in June. So you might think, why was it dated so late? So just to kind of let the whole board know, the reason why we don't date till June is we actually don't start the audit until about mid-April. So it's about a 6 to 8 week turnaround time, and we are out here for probably about 4 or 5 weeks to do the audit. The reason why we don't start until April is typically there's actuarial evaluations and other things that we're waiting from third parties, and because the township is so large, obviously there's a lot of activity, and so a lot of preparation needs to be done by the township's team as well. So just to give you a little perspective, I know sometimes people will say, wow, that seems like a long time after the start of the fiscal year, but really the turnaround time for the audit was very quick, and really that's due to the great team that you have here at the township. So we did want to thank the supervisor's office, treasurers, clerks, but also Barb Miller and Derek Dietrich and their team. Really their professionalism and the great job that they do, helps us to be efficient, and even though we start the audit late, to turn it around quickly and to get it out on time, and to have it really be able to present this to you today. And we'll talk a little bit about how the audit went when I get into the letter, but it allows us to give you the good report that we're able to give today. So with that, you should have in your packet a couple different items. You have the financial statements, that bound, spiral bound, it's about 150 pages. If you notice, it continues to grow every year. And so we'll talk a little bit about why that happened this year and why there were additional pages added. And then you also have a report on federal awards. We're not planning on going through that in detail. If you do look through it, you'll notice there were no issues, clean bill of health on that, and A+ on that, so we don't plan on going through that in any detail today. We also do the audit for the district court as well, and so I know management has seen a copy of that, and that audit went well, and that audit has been issued for probably at least 4 or 5, 6 weeks. Well, actually, earlier than the township audit, because it's very small, so that was done, and we went through that with the judge over at the court as well. Just to give you a little perspective, like I said, we don't plan on going through all 150 pages of the financial statements today, but we did have a very in-depth draft meeting with the 3 full-time elected officials and members of your team, including some of the department heads as well. So we did go through it in a lot of detail, a couple hours, but we're happy to answer any questions today if you do have any questions in regards to the details. Otherwise, Keith is going to go through kind of like highlight and show some trends to give you a perspective of how the township's been doing in comparison to the last several years, and then really kind of delve into the numbers that are in there, but more on a high level. We did spend, I mentioned we were out here for about 4 or 5 weeks. We did spend approximately 800 hours auditing the books and records of the township, including the federal awards audit and the court audit. So it is quite a bit of time that we put to go through the books and records and make sure that we can issue what we did issue, which was an unmodified opinion again this year. And what that means is basically you can rely on the numbers as they are stated within the statement. So, one of my colleagues likes to say if you're, a kid in school, it's like getting an A+ on your report card. So it basically means you can rely on the numbers as they are stated. It doesn't talk about the fiscal health of the township, and that's what Keith's going to do right now as he walks through the graphs.
Good evening. If you have any questions while I'm going through the financial highlights, please feel free to interrupt. The first few slides we're going to go through look at the general fund combined with the police and fire funds. Those are the township's 3 major governmental funds, and they are interrelated in that they all rely primarily on property tax revenue, and the police and fire funds are also subsidized by annual transfers from the general fund. In total, the revenue for these 3 funds did increase about 6% from a year ago. It was nearly $44 million for 2017. And as you can see, property taxes are the largest revenue source, making up about 43% of the total revenues. This revenue source did increase modestly, about 1.3% from the prior year, and it is still well below its peak, which was back in 2009 prior to the recession, at which time the township received over $24 million of property tax revenue. The next significant category are federal and state sources, the majority of which is state shared revenue, which was $6.3 million in the last year. And you can see this has varied a bit over the last few years, and that's largely due to the timing of your SAFER grants. So you had one a few years ago that expired, and then late in 2016, the township received a new SAFER grant award. So there was a portion of that revenue in late 2016, but 2017 was a full year in which you had SAFER revenue. So that increased the federal sources, and also increased the public safety expenses. We'll see on the next slide. On slide number 3, we're looking at a 5-year comparison of expenditures in those 3 major funds, and as you can see, public safety is the largest category, making about 74% of the total, which is typical in most local unions of government. It's particularly large for Waterford Township, as as you have both the SAFER grant active in 2017, and you also have the agreement to provide services to the city of Pontiac. The general government category increased a bit from 2016 to 2017 due to a one-time legal settlement of $1.4 million. But if you were to exclude that and account for the SAFER grant 2017, you'll really see that the expenditures have been very well controlled over the years, which is a credit to council and management for keeping a close eye on the budget and dealing with the revenue constraints that you face. On the next slide, we put total revenues and expenditures side by side and chart the uncommitted fund balance. By uncommitted, we mean the fund balance that's classified as either assigned or unassigned, so there are no legal restrictions on its use. And as you can see, 2017 was the 7th straight year in which revenues exceeded expenditures, which again is a credit for keeping a close eye on the budget. Any year in which revenues exceed expenditures, you're going to have an increase in total fund balance, and that was the case again in 2017. The percentage shown here in the bar did decrease slightly because more of that increase was through the restricted categories. It's also worth pointing out that not shown here are the $1.75 million that's been committed by the board for budget stabilization, as well as the money that's been put aside over the last several years for capital improvements in a separate capital improvement fund. So those are two of the fiscally responsible and forward-thinking things the township has been undertaking in the last few years to help improve their financial position. And I would say that it certainly is paying off, as we've seen in the results.
Yeah, and I think Keith's point is very important because we're going to talk a little bit on the next couple of slides about revenue constraints, and I know you're all well aware of the revenue constraints that you've faced. And so the only way you can continue to see this growth in your fund balance is really by managing your expenses. And it's evident by this slide that you have been able to do that, otherwise you would be seeing a lot of decreases. And so it's not an easy thing to do, right? So in a normal year, you expect at least inflationary increases, if not more when you're speaking of healthcare and other things. So something that I want to make sure, it is an important point in that it's not an easy thing to do, even though you've made it look easy because you've been able to do it for quite a few years. But it really isn't an easy thing. It takes a lot of commitment by the employees, the union groups, the management, the board to make that happen.
As I mentioned, property taxes are the largest revenue source of the governmental funds, and that's primarily driven both by your millage rate and taxable value. So on slide number 5, we've got a chart going back to 2008 with your taxable value through today, and then projected for the next 15 years to 2033. As you can see, the peak was at $2.7 billion of taxable value in 2008 and 2009. It dipped very sharply during and after the recession. And even though it's come back a little bit over the last couple of years, the township still remains 27% below its peak taxable value from 2008 to 2009. So going forward, increases in taxable value will be limited by state law to either 5% or inflation, whichever is less. And the fact that Waterford Township is a largely built out community further limits the taxable value increase you can see in future years. So for projection's sake, we assume 2% annual increases for the next 15 years, and at that point in 2033 is when we project the taxable value will get back to the $2.7 billion it was in 2008 and 2009. So another way of saying that is it'll take 20 years from the bottom to get back what you lost in just the 5 years of the recession. That's also not including the fact that, as Pam mentioned, your expenditures are likely increasing by at least inflation each year. In the case of some fringe benefits, healthcare primarily, is increasing at an even greater rate than that.
And I think this is kind of an important one too, because I think the kind of consensus, especially in Oakland County, is as a resident, my value of my home is going up, right? So I'm feeling really good about the market, about, if I want to go sell my house tomorrow, I feel like the value has maybe come back or is at least close. But due to the constraints of Proposal A and Headley, that's really where the limitation is on the township. And so that's an important thing, I think, to get across as you discuss with residents the challenges that local governments have within the state of Michigan. It's not always easy for the average person to see because they just see the value of their home and what they could get for it. And it doesn't directly correlate to the potential revenue source for the township. So I think sometimes that's a struggle in trying to convey that to residents.
So we talked about the challenges facing taxable value, the largest revenue source for the township, and on the next slide, slide number 6, we're charting some of the challenges related to the next largest revenue source in the general fund, the state shared revenue. So we have 2 lines shown here. The blue one represents the amount of state shared revenue the township received in 2011. We just project that as a flat amount each year without even inflationary increases. And then the orange line represents the actual state shared revenue received by the township. So that decreased or was below what you received in 2001 every year since then. So since 2001, the state's been dipping into statutory revenue sharing in order to balance its own budget. The impact on the township was significant. So in 2011, the township received $6.1 million. That was still more than $1 million below the $7.3 million received in 2001. The cumulative difference of all the years shown adds up to almost $23 million that the township did not receive that they otherwise would have, even with flat amounts since 2001. And with a conservative inflation estimate of 2001 projected to 2017, 2017 revenue would have actually been more than $10 million instead of the $6 million received. So every year that goes on, you continue to receive less than you did in 2001. And again, that's not counting for inflation, which you are faced with in terms of expenditures.
As Keith pointed out too, I mean, this is the second largest revenue source to the township, so it's going to be important as we look towards 2020, which sounds like a long ways away, but in reality it really isn't, right? And so with the new census that will be coming out, that is how the revenue sharing payments are derived, so it's based on population, and then obviously there's the constitutional piece of the sales tax collections, but so there is, if the population does go up, then that is good news to an extent, depending on how much it goes up, then you should get a little bit of a larger share of the pie, but if the population has declined since the last census, then that'll also affect your numbers in a negative way. So time will tell, but that is coming in the next couple of years and something to be watching as you move closer to the 2020 budget.
On the next slide, we've got a 14-year history of the full-time employees of the township. And we feel this is important because the primary function of all local units of government is to provide services to the residents. And you do that primarily through the hiring of employees to perform those services. So between their salaries and the fringe benefits, the people costs really are the number one cost of a local unit of government. And as you can see here, for the last few years, the base number of employees has been in the range of about 250 to 260 employees. And that's significantly less than it was prior to the recession, and you would actually have to go back to about 1980 to see the last time Waterford Township was at a base employment level of about 260 employees. But we have broken out and added on top of here the fact that there are additional employees for the fact that you are providing fire services to the city of Pontiac and the Safer Grant, who are employees only as long as that grant is in place. Slide number 8, we switch gears away from the governmental funds and spend one slide looking at the water and sewer fund. Here, we have operating revenues and expenses side by side, along with a line charting the unrestricted net position for the equity in the water and sewer fund. For the last few years, operating revenues have exceeded operating expenditures, and the unrestricted net position has maintained at a very steady amount of about 70 to 75% of operating expenses. By doing so, the water and sewer fund has maintained a very strong financial position, allowing you to both maintain the operations as well as execute capital improvements and pay the long-term debt of the township and of county-wide projects in which it participates. So, through all these slides, we've talked about the fact that there have been significant challenges on your largest revenue sources, but the short-term results have been very strong. You've managed to add to fund balance in your governmental funds and that position in the water and sewer fund. However, there are some long-term challenges that remain, both for the township and many other local units of government. And those are primarily the pension and retiree healthcare obligations that are outstanding. The good news is that although there is a net pension liability, it's relatively small compared to the overall size of the plans. The total net pension liability of the two plans is about $8.5 million. It's a $10 million liability for the police and fire plan, but your general employees plan is actually overfunded by $2 million. So that plan is 103% funded, while the police and fire plan is 90% funded. And those really are tremendous results. And the management board of those plans deserves a lot of credit. Those are some of the strongest numbers that we see in local government in this area. The other very significant challenge is the obligation for retiree health care. We have that charted off to the right. And due to the fact that this hasn't been measured and funded as long as the pension plans, Waterford finds itself in the same position many other local units find themselves, with a very low funding percentage in the retiree health care plan. So in this case, the unfunded obligation is nearly $150 million. So the good news is the township has already taken steps to control that cost. They've closed the plan to new hires, and have begun setting aside money in the trust that's now earning interest that we used to pay for future benefits, while the township's general and police and fire funds are paying the cost of actual retiree health care now. So that trust that's set aside will continue to grow and be available for future benefits, but due to the overall size of this obligation, it is probably the largest fiscal challenge facing the township going forward. Are there any questions on the financial results before Pam talks about the letter?
So next we're going to just briefly cover the letter addressed to the Board of Trustees. I know you've all had it for a while, so I'm not going to go into all the details here. Probably one of the most important things that I wanted to point out is actually what's not included in this letter. So in the current year, we did not have any deficiencies to note related to internal controls. If we did, they would be noted within this letter. And so again, as a board, I think you should feel very good about that. And what that really means to you is that you can rely on the controls and the financial data that you're getting from your team. So if at any point you need to make an important decision, you can rely on those numbers that are there. We're not coming out and changing them significantly. And so not something that we can say everywhere, but I think you should definitely, as a board, feel very good about the fact that there were no deficiencies. Really included in this letter are two sections. So the first section I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on pages 2 through 4. If you recall, before the audit starts, we come out, we speak with the township supervisor, we talk about our plan for the audit, and then we also send a letter out to the entire board just addressing what our conversation was about with the supervisor, and then also giving the board an opportunity to reach out to us if you have any concerns related to the audit. And so this letter is a follow-up to that communication, and basically what it says is that we didn't have any deviations from our plan as we laid out to you before the audit started. We did, the township did implement a significant new accounting standard this year related to retiree health care. And as I alluded to earlier, if you were to kind of compare the financial statements from last year to this year, you'll notice there's probably at least 5 to 10 new pages of disclosures related to the retiree health care liability that Keith mentioned earlier is about $150 million. And so that was probably the most significant impact to the financial statements from a reporting standpoint in the current year. We do have on pages 5 through 9 just some legislative updates and items for you to note as you work through your budgets and upcoming items over the next year. And probably the most significant impact and what takes up probably 2 or 3 pages of those 5 pages relates to legacy costs. And so while the township implemented a new standard in the current year, you're going to implement another new one related to retiree health care next year. That's actually going to take that $150 million unfunded liability and no longer just record it in the footnotes, but actually show it in your financial statements. So that'll be a big difference next year when we come out here and we show you some of the slides. However, in speaking with a lot of the bonding and the rating agencies, they have always been aware of this liability and you've always had to report it in your footnotes. So we have not seen it impact credit ratings because they've always known that it's there. But it's definitely a real liability that we know you are addressing and will impact the numbers next year. Also, pages 6 and 7 is just a couple public acts that have been passed. So in the past year and a half, as I'm sure you all know, there have been 2 different public acts that have been passed related to legacy costs. And that has required a lot of additional reporting on your end and some different things that the state's now looking at in terms of what your funding status is in relation to both pension and retiree health care. So your team has worked on that and will continue to work with the state, in particular on the retiree health care side of things. You're well over the state's minimum funding amount for your pension systems, as Keith indicated earlier. So just a little information on that in case you don't want to read the whole public act, just kind of a little brief summary in here. Update on revenue sharing and some other proposed legislation as well. So any questions on anything that we included in the letter or anything else that we presented today? Well, that was all we had, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to make a comment. You mentioned that the revenue sharing is based on our census numbers, and I'm hoping the dog census will maybe get us some extra money. Thank you, guys. It's always a pleasure to
Thank you.
Kate's a wonderful job every year and look forward to dealing with you again in the future.
Thank you.
Derek and Barb, you know what this means? Budget 2019 is now officially in action. Okay, next up, we have the consent agenda. Prior to going over there, is there anything anybody would like to have removed? Okay. We got the July 9th, 2018 meeting minutes. Today, July 23rd, 2018 bill payment. Cable Department's May and June 2018 reports. Department of Public Works, June 2018 report. District Court Q2 caseload and financial trend analysis, June 2018 report. Treasurer's Office, June 2018 report. And we have Hess Hathaway Advisory Committee appointment of Arthur Fasca as a board liaison, and the Hess Hathaway Advisory Committee reappointment of Lynn Hardacre to another term.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support. Is there any other questions or comments on this? It's false finances, so it's roll call.
Fresca,
Yes.
Wall,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Bartolet,
Yes.
Rich. Yes. Joliet,
Yes.
Miller.
Next up is the board liaison reports. Tony, start with you.
I have done the report this week.
Steve.
I have nothing to report this week.
Margaret.
Nothing to report.
We're on a roll. I'm not going to report anything either.
Nothing to report from our meetings. Usually canceled.
I have something to report. I had a Great Plains Nature Center meeting last week, and we had a representative from the county water resource come out to address the low water levels of the Clinton River that ran by there. And he gave us a point of contact and what we need to do to correct it. That's all I have.
Art?
I do have something to report from Hess Hathaway. The last meeting was held at the park on July 12th, 2018. as throughout the meeting, reports provided by various committee members show that day-to-day activities, which keep the park the special place it is, are being continued with dedication. Animals being cared for, hay being planted, etc. Various camps are continuing to go on. They had a very successful concert, series of concerts in, I think it was late May through June. They had some upcoming events that were put on the calendar, well, that are on the calendar. One of the events was Park It, which the first one was held on July 17th. There's another one scheduled for August 23rd. They wanted to make note of the Harvest Happening event scheduled for October 7th. They seem to be getting more and more pieces to that. It seems to be getting bigger and better. And then they have Funtober and a Zombie Run scheduled for October 13th. The next meeting scheduled for September 13th at the park. And they recommended that anybody who was looking for further details could reach out by calling Parks and Rec or look at the website. They also have a survey from Parks and Rec available on the website also. That's it.
Great. So as part of our consent agenda, we did approve Mr. Frasca as Hathaway board member. So I'll take this opportunity to swear you in.
I do solemnly swear
That I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state,
and the Constitution of the state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
as a member of the Township Meeting
as a member of the Hess Hathaway Board
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Art has already been on the Hess Hathaway board, but he is now acting as the board liaison, so we have to swear him in again.
You're welcome back on board.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, under old business, we got rezoning case number 18-04-01 to rezone from public lands district to R1A, single family district.
I make a motion to rezone case number 18-04-01 from public land district to R1A, single family residential, 5341 Tubman Road.
I support.
Bartolotto,
Yes,
by
sir.
adopting the ordinance presented.
By adopting the ordinance presents.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I support. Any further discussion? Okay, this is roll call vote.
Joliet,
Yes.
Bartolet,
Yes.
Birch,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Wall,
Yes.
Camilleri, yes. Frasca?
Yes.
Okay, under new business, we need approval for myself, the township supervisor, to sign the CGI community video program contract.
I'll make a motion for the supervisor approval to sign CGI Community Video Program contract.
I support. Any further discussion on this?
I would just like to briefly describe it for people who are here. This is a company that will produce a video featuring whatever we want to feature in the township at no cost to the township. And they do that by selling advertising by local businesses. And the way it works is you go to the township's website, and to see this video, you click on the link and it takes you to their website. So the video and the advertising are not on the township's website, it's an outside link. But these videos are very professionally done. They don't cost anything. Where we don't own the video, we actually have the rights to use it in any number of ways that we choose to use it. So after our attorney reviewed the contract and our cable coordinator agreed that it was a pretty fantastic program, hopefully we decide to move forward with this. And you can check it out on the City of Livonia's website. They use this company and you can see how well done it is.
City of Livonia, City of Taylor, City of Dearborn Heights, and City of Pontiac, all this company. And again, like Sue said, I did talk to Gary Allison, our chief coordinator, and he said basically it's a no-brainer. What, you know, there's no cost to the township. We did a montage here last year about, it's a business poster of all the businesses in the township, and they went around and they got sponsorships from businesses, and the businesses went on this montage and recognized some legendary people from this area. No, I wasn't on it, so I said legendary people, but they had that and put it out, distributed it to businesses around the township, and it's been very popular. We still have some of them for sale here at the township for $10 a piece. So, but again, like it's no cost to the township, and it brings positive publicity and press to your community. So it's a good program. Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Thomas.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Frasca.
Yes.
Birch.
Yes.
Bartolota.
Yes.
Joliet.
Yes.
Camilleri. Yes.
Okay. Yep. We have here a proposal to amend the sewer contract. Please consider addition as items described below to approve the First Amendment of Waterford Independence Sanitary Sewage Services Contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment of the Waterford Independent Sanitary Sewage Services Contract.
Support.
Any further discussion on this?
Again, just as an informational thing, this is a contract between Waterford and Independence Township and enables each residents of one township to hook to the sewer system of another township. We already have some properties that have this arrangement, and we are just adding, I believe it's just one property, isn't it, to the agreement?
Yes.
Yes, adding to one property.
Just one property.
Yep.
So if somebody in Independence Township wants to hook to Waterford sewer, and they will be paying for that privilege.
We've done similar to White Lake Township also. Okay, is there any further discussion on this? Okay, roll call.
Joliet.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Frasca.
Yes.
Camilleri. Yes. Birch.
Yes.
Bartolota.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a citizen to address the board, Vaughn Wagner.
Board members, Vaughn Wagner, 2510 Silverside, Waterford, Michigan. I've been a citizen here in Waterford for over 50 years, and tonight I want to mention a few things on our upcoming vote on August 7th on the SAD Special Assessment District for our police department and our fire department. I want to start out. I was away most of the week, and I came home this weekend, and I had a piece of literature that was put in my mailbox. I don't know if most of you board members or hopefully a lot of citizens of Waterford that are listening now. It's Consider This. And basically it's a breakdown about the SAD that hopefully we're going to be voting on there on August 7th. There's a lot of information in here, and I'm still researching some of it. And most of what I found is pretty truthful information. The one thing that bothers me is when people put stuff in my mailbox and they don't sign it.
Sir, you can speak when it's time to speak. Thank you.
They don't sign the letter, and I guess they don't do this because maybe unbeknownst to a lot of people, it's against federal law to put anything in that mailbox, usually unless it has a stamp on it. I've been going through this, and it was kind of fast coming in here tonight, but as I stated, a lot of the information, it has facts in it. It was interesting that Plant Moran came tonight, and I know it might have went over a lot of people's head about the police and fire expenditures and the township expenditures. I've been looking at this now, and for the past 8 years, I've got to commend the board, our fire department, and our police department for working with the lower revenue that has been coming in. I'm now looking back at the 8 prior years when everything was going gangbusters and running good, and I've came before you guys before and talked. I don't come to you with my beliefs or my opinions. I come with facts and data. And I'm looking now into the Headley and the Proposal A and just looking at how that impact came about in the last 8 years and those prior 8 years. This piece of paper leaves out some interesting stuff. It states this and this. It talks about our 39 firefighters, and it makes everything look like a real nice piece of plum cake. But those 8 years that I just talked about has really been a low point in our history with what's going on. It mentions the 39 firefighters. It doesn't mention about the grant that is going to expire in September of this year, and that if our fire chief can't somehow find another grant, we're going to lose 39 firefighters. Even the police department with the police officers, that we're into a position with them having our police officers, but they could use more police officers. We go into, they talk about the Waterford voters voting on this SAD. And then they mention Lake Angeles and Pontiac, like, well, yeah, they're not going to do nothing. It's been brought up in the meetings before that those contracts are negotiated by the board, and that usually every year there's a 5% increase. So they're paying money into us too. A lot of it, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use myself on the SAD by showing what I figured out, because I really appreciated the page that was set up so that all the citizens of Waterford can go on that webpage, punch in, look at their property taxes, and have this calculated right for them how much they're going to pay on their property every year. My rough taxable value on my house is $89,000. If I multiply that by the 2.95 mils that are being requested, I come up with $263 a year. I love numbers. I love to break stuff down, make it simple. $263 a year, roughly $21 a month. Break that down to about 72 cents a day. And if you want to go by the hour, it's 3 cents an hour. And to me, where else can you get police and fire protection for one of our officers or one of our firefighters to step in front of us to protect us or our households for 3 cents an hour? I noticed too, and I knew it was going to be in the agendas, that we've got another SAD meeting coming up on Thursday, the 26th. And if any of the citizens of Michigan receive this paper and are going to be at that meeting, I hope they're there to ask some of these questions, because our police chief's going to be there and our fire chief's going to be there. And I know doggone well they'll be able to answer stuff a lot better than me. And as I stated before, putting stuff in a mailbox, yeah, it's good. Put your name on it. Or come up and knock on my door and give it to me where I can talk to you about it. Because I've got my points of how I want to see this special assessment for them passed. We'll stand behind them for a while. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We can now open it up for public comment. We will be limited to 3 minutes speaking time for public comment. Is there anybody? Yes, sir?
Or 012 Sawyer. I've been told that the board is working on like other ordinances in other communities about a single waste hauler. I was wondering, there's a committee that's been established for that, or is there any open seats on that?
No, we've not established a committee. We just looked at the board and we actually worked on it in our work session tonight and was ready to turn over to our township attorney for review.
So there's nothing to report on that then?
No, sir.
Okay. And agenda item 2.1, special assessment district meeting will be on channel 20. That's Comcast, correct?
Yep.
There's nothing on AT&T or there's nothing on my...
AT&T is channel 10,
99, Waterford.
99 Waterford, okay.
Nothing online?
The repeats will be played online, yeah.
The repeats we played on, okay.
Will that be on demand also?
It's on demand, download, streaming, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
If there is any openings for the alley, certainly.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Renee Watson. I am running for State Senate, District 14. I would like to just introduce myself, say hello. My website is renee4senate.com. I have extensive experience in public service, education, government, healthcare, and wellness, and I do support small business. I do have a collaborative style approach, and out canvassing, knocking on doors, making phone calls, and I'm looking forward to learning more about Waterford Township. You are in my district, so I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
John Lyman, Waterford Fire Chief. I just wanted to quickly go over one thing that the auditor said, and I appreciated them saying that because it's very, very true. And they stated it in a public meeting broadcast live. I just think this is awesome. The state of Michigan balanced their books on the backs of municipalities. And just Waterford alone costing us $23 million. And that's very significant. And I think the state needs to start paying that money back because the number just continues to rise that they take from taxpayers in this township. And I don't think it should be tolerated. I think our lawmakers ought to do better than that. And they've created near disaster for this township and other municipalities in the state of Michigan.
Just to take it one step further, what Chief Lyman said there are 533 cities and villages in the state of Michigan, 1,240 townships. So, and again, like we've seen in recent years the amount of money, federal and state money that's gone into our cities, and not saying it hasn't gone there for legitimate reasons. I'm not saying that, but again, the funding that the townships have given up and the amount of funding that comes back out is not balanced. They said they balanced their budget on the backs of municipality. It was time to start paying back again. So it's a very, very good point. Is there anybody else like to come up and speak? Okay.
I would like to make a motion to meet in closed session to consider the Township Attorney's confidential July 18, 2018 opinion letter regarding arbitration with Lawrence and Clark Incorporated, and to include the Township's risk manager and the DPW director, the budget director, and the assistant budget director in the closed session.
When we return from closed session, we will adjourn the meeting. There will be no further votes.
I'll support that motion.
Roll call.
Julia.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Camilleri. Yes. Fresca.
Yes.
Bartolotti.
Yes.
Birch.
Yes.